YouTube.
All right.
Just gonna do that? All right, we're live.
All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of the Tony Mack Show. Today we're going to talk about NCAA championship, how good is prep school basketball in Canada, a Final Four visit that our guys took down to Minnesota this past week, and who they met and who they saw. So let's get right into it. I mean, we had a little pre-talk earlier. Manny, I think your prediction really came through in terms of us looking at you and saying, you know, Texas Tech. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I just think just from watching them the whole year, they were well coached, tough, very talented as well. And plus, they had a grad transfer point guard, which plays a big role in today's game. The grad transfer is so huge. And then I had Virginia in the Final Four as well. And honestly, it was just a great, great game. And I think we got tastes of basketball that doesn't exist these days often. We're so offensive oriented, and it's really a battle of two defensive teams, which is great to see.
I think one of the things that you see on Twitter and things that you saw happening was, people saying that this was going to be a boring game, and I think it turned out to be an amazing game of two defensive-minded teams that really went after it and then ended up really being who could score on offense here. So, man, Jeremy, what's your take on people saying that this was going to be the most boring game in NCAA basketball history?
I think it's boring to people who don't love basketball. I think if you enjoy and love the whole nature of basketball and what it means, and then I think it was a very exciting game. Well, I always thought prior to the game that it would be very exciting. Like I personally don't get excited by just seeing points scored. So for me, I was anticipating and ready for a good basketball game regardless of the score. And on top of that, I mean, there are two well-coached teams, and it's a joy for me to be able to say I produced national championship point guards.
I think when I was sitting there watching the game, the one thing that was really evident, I mean, both coaches' demeanor. We're sitting here with 5 coaches in the room, or 4 in the room, and me over here in Portland. But the demeanor of the coaches and their coaching style. Pat, talk a little bit about what you saw in Coach Beard and Coach Bennett, and kind of what was your takeaway from their style of coaching?
I think the one thing I noticed, and it was really clear, was just seeing how cool, calm, and collective Coach Bennett was. You see him on the sideline, sitting down on his chair on the stool, just relaxed, and kind of orchestrating what he wanted his team to go out there and do, versus Chris Beard, who was all over the sideline, kind of looking a little bit like myself, and kind of trying to just get his guys to battle through what they're dealing with, and also kind of I think latch on to the energy that he was bringing. So you had one coach that was bringing the energy, active, communicating with his team. The other one doing the communication, but doing it on a slighter level, trying to make sure that the guy's mental was locked in. And I think a lot of that had to do with just their exit last year in the tournament to a 16th seed. They took a lot more of a different approach, and I think that it definitely paid off for them in the end of the game, where they just finished off, and they're the ones that came out on the last run. So. I would say hats off to Tony and what he was able to accomplish, and just to see, his demeanor and how he handled the entire game, that's impressive. It's something you don't often see nowadays in the game, but I think that he very much so controlled every outcome of what might have happened to Virginia in that basketball game.
I think I think the destiny was with Virginia, so to speak, when you look at all of the things went the right way for them. Mm-hmm. You look at Guy hitting 3 key free throws to send them to the championship game, and then they got down in the championship game, and everything just seemed to go right. The missed double dribble call, the 3 ball in the corner, just everything started to flow.
Yeah.
and they got all the breaks. Do you think, we always talk about it as like you got to roll with the punches, but do you think that you have to have those breaks to win a national championship?
I think in general, the game of basketball, it's inevitable, what's going to happen. There's a team that's going to finish off the game on a run, and that's going to be the team that comes out winning. I think a little bit in regards, and this is something that I'm glad I'm getting a chance to talk about, was at the beginning of the game, you saw how dominant Virginia's pack line defense was towards Texas Tech. They couldn't get any ball penetration. They couldn't get any drive-to-kick situations. A lot of it was just settling for whatever jump shot they got late in the shot clock versus Virginia, who was running their stuff. But then you saw kind of a full momentum switch, which once again, like I said earlier, the game will change very quickly. But Texas Tech started to get more ball movement going in their offense, and they started getting to the basket, getting more open looks. It started to fall for them. And then you started to see vice versa with Virginia. Texas Tech's defense started to look really good, and Virginia was starting to be a little bit, one-dimensional, coming up, pulling up for three, coming up pass one time, catch and shoot. So I think the biggest thing, and it points off to the last question that you said, I think just how controlled Tony was in that situation really reflected on his players. And I think that was a huge reason why in overtime they were able to come out on top and just hit shots at the right time.
How, Jeremy, Brandon, in watching the game, who were the three best players in this game?
That's a tough one.
One person that definitely, I would say DeAndre Hunter. I would say Guy and Ty Jerome. I just feel like those three were just dominant from jump ball to that last buzzer. Yeah, I was watching a lot of kind of pre-draft breakdown or NBA draft breakdown on a couple of these guys, and they were saying with Ty Jerome, he's deceptively quick, and I guess a lot of guys can't really time his change of speeds and stuff like that. And I remember he had one big play where he attacked on the left side, and he had a wide open layup, and then he kicked it out to Hunter, and I was honestly shocked. I'm like you had a wide open layup, and then Hunter, sure enough, knocked down the open three. But just the fact that these guys were so in tune with each other, just knowing where each other were on the court, where to find each other, and execute as a team, it showed why they were three main guys where they stood out in that championship game.
I think they all three of them scored over 18 points apiece, so that's impressive.
I think it's
yeah, absolutely.
I think it's tough to say. I mean, that's a good question because to say three people, that's the three people who won, but I think Moretti and Jared Cover were making plays for Texas Tech down the stretch too. Mm-hmm. So I think DeAndre Hunter was for sure the best player in the game, but between Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome and Cover and Moretti, that's a tough 2 or 3.
Jeremy, prediction right now, Culver's draft spot.
I'm not a big mock draft dude, so I really honestly can't call it, but I'll say he's a first rounder. I might be way off. He might be top 5 on the board right now. I don't know, but I think he's lottery. I mean, he's young, he's explosive. He's as far as I've seen, his game has grown. He's one of those undervalued, under-recruited kids they like to say. So I think he's not one of those kids that grew up thinking his way is the only way. And I think he has a lot of room for improvement, and he's oozing with talent. So I think he's a lottery pick.
Absolutely. I'm going to move us along now to our second topic here is how good is prep basketball in Canada? And I think obviously we're biased because we're from Canada, but having Jeremy in the room and Manny being down at Oral Roberts, you guys got to see a lot of high school basketball elsewhere. I'm out here at Hoop Summit in Portland, Oregon, and I'm watching, a funny situation happened yesterday at Hoop Summit is they were scrimmaging, and a foul was called, and they went to the line, and they were like, it's 1-1, and there's actually no such thing as 1-1 in FIBA, so everyone was just highly confused. They shot the ball, everyone boxed out, and then, Roy Rena and Borko were yelling, there's no 1-1, so... I think we're really ahead of the game in Canada with our prep school basketball and the 24-second shot clock and the 14-second reset. you see the effect of how much better versed people are on the international side when you come down here and you watch MA understanding, everything that we do up there and implementing it into his game down here. But how good is prep basketball here, Jeremy, compared to what you've seen?
I think prep basketball here in Ontario is one of the best in North America. I come from Southern California, where we have like maybe 12. Like, we lead the league in guys as far as from an area. Like, LA leads that. Then I think right behind that, I've heard that Toronto is right behind it. So I think that kind of speaks to itself as far as like the level of kids that come out of here. And it's one of the top leagues in North America. So you got WCAC in the DMV area. Then I think we're right there, up there. From a longevity standpoint, of course, the WCAC and the CIF and the NEPSAC, they've been around for a long time. So for us to compete and produce the kind of kids that we produce in a short amount of time in comparison to those other leagues, I think like we're right up there.
I think when you look at prep school basketball in Canada, I think we're starting to create an atmosphere and a culture. And when I say that, one school really comes to mind, and not over any other school, but when you walk into Vaughan and you play at 7 o'clock on let's say a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and it's their home game, they have fans packed in that gym, and it's an atmosphere and a culture they've created there. That's one of my favorite places to go play on the road. So, I mean, where's your guys' favorite place to play?
For me, I like playing at Rise Prep, just because it's similar to ours, but they have a pretty good fan base as well, and it definitely is always fun. Even when I played, like, it was always fun playing on the road. But yeah, well, like with their atmosphere, like you kind of get that feel where it's like similar to Vaughan, where good fan base, fans are loud, they cheer for almost every single bucket, and as the opponent, like it kind of gets you fired up, and they start to catch up, or like they make a big play, and like okay, like now like we got to keep competing and stuff like that. So I think them.
It's tough. I agree with you with Vaughn. But I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. I know one is a touchy one for us, but I'm gonna go with Carr and Thornley. I like Carr based off the fact that when they really get that gym slammed, you got fans right on the sideline, pretty much hugging the baseline right in the corner. So if you're shooting that corner three, you got it's almost like Duke Stadium. You got people literally right on top of you. That kind of atmosphere to whether it was playing, which I had the opportunity to do so, and I think it used to be a lot crazier, or to now when coaching, it's just an amazing atmosphere to be a part of. And the one thing I liked
I think if Melnick let people chew gum in there, more people would
yeah. No, but I think I like Thornley as well. Based off of just like the fan base, I think obviously the addition of a few of the parents, and seeing how active they are on the sideline, and just the energy they bring. Obviously, I know for a lot of people they look at that as very extra and a little bit too comical. But for me, someone that is comical myself, I love it. I have no problems with it. For me, it feels like a home game when it's an away game. So for me, I like when the gyms are busy and packed like that, and there's a lot of energy. There's the trash talking. For me. Once again, whether it's coaching or playing previously, that's my element. I love those kind of atmospheres, and I live for those kind of moments. So I would go with Carr and Thornley.
Manny?
I'd probably go Carr as well, just based off the tradition, the history of that program. It's been around for years. I think they've done a great job with the tradition, obviously Carr early bird, and I just love the whole history behind it. They produce some good guys, and just out of respect for that program, definitely Carr.
There's one that kind of stands out to me too, where they're trying to create the culture and they're doing all the right things with the player intros and everything, and that's going out to Southwest as well.
Yeah.
I think they've been doing a pretty good job out there, trying to make sure that it's an event for their fans and their people. So shout out there. Let's just flip it back for a minute on your Final Four visit. Manny and Jeremy, you guys headed out to Minnesota this past week. Got to spend some time at the Final Four. Tell me, I'll start with you, Manny. What was your biggest takeaway from there in terms of something that you saw, met, someone you met? What did you take away with you there and your biggest learning?
I just think I took away, how helpful, older coaches are towards the younger generation now. Mm-hmm. I feel like everybody is starting to pour down and kind of give back. Had so many people reconnect with me that, were so willing to provide a helping hand, told me that, hey, it's an open book here to come to their practices, to give them a phone call if I ever have any questions. And, that's very encouraging as a young coach, to have people in the profession that are open to, helping the younger guys learn and obviously, hear things that, that they're going through. So I thought it was great to see older coaches have that sort of openness with younger guys.
Jeremy, what was yours?
I think my biggest takeaway this year was understanding that there's levels to this thing. Like we talk about this coaching business and profession, and I think you get out there and you realize that there really is levels to this whole thing. I'm glad and fortunate that they provide a platform for young coaches to learn, network with each other. Dudes that you see on TV all year long, you get to actually walk up and talk to them. And they're open. Like it's not. I feel like they deal with a lot of fanfare throughout the year, and for them to know that like people, the gist of the people that's approaching and talking to them are coaches who want to learn and who've been where they've been, and they've been where you've been, so they know what you feel like when you talk to them, et cetera, et cetera. So I think my biggest takeaway this year around was understanding like the magnitude of it and understanding that there's really are levels to this thing.
Absolutely. Now, who was your most entertaining conversation that you pulled aside? Obviously, Jeremy, you got to meet back up with Coach Hop, but Manny, you were there. Who were you able to catch the ear of and have a good conversation where you left thinking, oh my God, I really talked to that guy?
I thought it was pretty neat to touch base with Coach John Beeline. And I say that because, I actually had just kind of a natural bump into him. I didn't kind of go out of my way, which is kind of neat. I went to a Bible study group in the morning. That was for coaches at 8:30, and he happened to just be outside in that alleyway, and so, the reason I liked it was because he was with his son, Patrick Beeline, who just took the job at Niagara University. And so I thought it was amazing to connect with Beeline, talk about Iggy's progression, talk about, his Canadian Connect, and also get a chance to meet Patrick, who's planning to be in our gym a lot and recruit some of our Canadian guys, So I think it was kind of just like just something that, wasn't planned and it just kind of, kind of happened. So I'm a fan of the natural encounters.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. Jeremy, who was yours?
I don't know if I really have one. I think it was good for me to, I'm a big fan.
He just doesn't want to look like a fanboy.
I mean, naturally I'm not, but I mean, I think it was good for me to reconnect with. I had a good conversation with Mike Boynton. He was a part of the Next Generation Coaches Coaching You seminar that was put together by Coach Brendan Sir, who used to be a coach for the Detroit Pistons back in the day, and he was at LSU with Ben Simmons, and me and Manny listened to his podcast throughout the year all the time anyway. So I think it was good to get to speak to him and then again reconnect with Coach Boynton and just talk to him and kind of pick his brain. And I'll be potentially going to Oklahoma State and just picking their brains and just being a fly on the wall.
It's crazy. I'm gonna jump in for 1 sec here and say, like, being over here in Portland and watching this with you guys on IG Live here and being part of it, it's crazy the amount of people that actually sign in. So I just wanted to give a shout out to all the people that are watching and paying attention to what you guys are doing and value your guys' opinion and look forward to Whiteboard Wednesdays every week. So if they do have any questions, make sure you ask them, and we'll do our best to answer any of those questions. But
we got to put those in at the end. T, I got something for it.
Our next topic, I'm going to skip over for a second and really get into something, because as I was sitting here You know, it was official. I think it was an unforegone conclusion. R.J. Barrett's going to enter the NBA draft. But with that being said, what do you guys think about the amount of Canadians that have entered the draft this year? When you see with Iggy has declared, Simi, O'Shea, Lou, I think Nikhil. There's just a ton. I think there's 8, if I'm not mistaken, that are going to or are about to declare. So what's your guys' take on that? And you know, shout out to those guys for chasing their dream. What's your feel on the amount of Canadians that are coming through here right now?
It's honestly, I wouldn't even say surreal. Like, just because like I knew, like when I was in college, like just seeing like the young talent growing up. Like first starts off with, you know, my brother Tyler and Andrew Wiggins and Xavier Raton Mays and those guys. Like I knew they were going to be something special when they got to college. And I remember telling my teammates, like, you know, like, just look out for Canada. Like, you know, we're on the come up and stuff like that. So just seeing, like, how we started, I mean, I think Tristan was the first one. Well, not necessarily the first one. I mean, we have Jamal McGlory, Steve Nash, and stuff like that. But, like, with people that, like, you know, we more so knew personally.
We're in a top 10 position.
Yeah. Just seeing that, like, it's honestly, like, for a lack of words, like, it's cool because, like, we're so used to seeing, like, a lot of Americans and, like, granted, America has a lot of talent. Americans and Europeans getting drafted in the lottery and stuff like that, and then seeing kids that we know from Canada being lottery picks, number 1 picks, and all that kind of stuff. It's a beautiful thing to see because, like, it just shows how much talent we have in Canada, and the fact that, like, you know, these kids are, like, being able to, you know, compete with, you know, top players in the world. And consistently doing that, even once they get there, it's definitely a great thing to see.
Jeremy, you being from LA, Toronto has the second most NBA players next to LA, I believe. What's your feel and feedback when you look at the state of basketball in Canada? Because when I look at the younger kids now, and I keep saying this, and I amaze myself when I say it, is I think the younger kids are even better than the kids that are coming now.
I think I'm first and foremost. I think I'm blessed to be able to be here. I think you and Jesse have provided a platform for these kids that's second to none. Like if you look at it, AI and Orangeville Prep will have O'Shea, Iggy, and Lou in the draft this year. And then you alone having bounced, you can add Simi to that batch. So it's like you literally got 4 kids you about to have in the draft, and I think that alone is very rare, and I think some people who don't get it take that for granted. So again, I just want to thank you and Jesse for first having me here. Like this is it's almost crazy, but it's like seems so normal and regular. But I think it's dope though. Oh no, I think it's really good for the state of basketball up here. I mean, it speaks to everything that we've been saying already about Toronto and the greater Toronto area as far as the talent that they have around here. It's just crazy. I mean, it to me it makes sense. Like you said, like we see these young kids. We had them at the BioSteel Futures game, and even the kids in the BioSteel Seniors game. I mean, like it's gonna be a lot of pros that's coming out of this region. So I think it'd be good.
I want to give a shout out to all the guys that are grinding it out in the gym and helping get these guys ready. I mean, there's guys from grade 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up working with these kids every single day and doing a great job with them, and you know, traveling around, you know, Ontario, traveling to the States with these kids, and I don't think they get enough credit, the guys that are coaching these guys, and you know, I think it's just been an amazing run, and I think it's going to only get better. We just got to make sure that we hold basketball in Canada down, make sure we keep it Canadian, and make sure that there's some way that people can continue to, you know, work together on this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So shout out to all those guys entering the draft. June's going to be an amazing month. You know, I hope their pre-draft workouts go great. But you know, what's your guys' thoughts on AAU right now in terms of progressing forward in the state of AAU, and how important do you think AAU is in the development, exposure, and opportunities for these kids moving forward through April, May, June, July this year? Manny?
I think AAU's, for the previous years, especially with rule changes now, we're all kind of going to see how it's going to play out. But I think previously, I thought AAU was great for these kids. And I say that because, it provided a stage where you have hundreds of coaches that come out from all various different levels to give these kids an opportunity to be seen. Like I said, so we don't know how it's going to be this year, but I thought AAU was great. Of course, things are, done under the table, that unfortunately and fortunately came out. So I feel like that will always exist. I think that's not only in basketball. I think that's in every other sport. So, but other than that, but for the kids, generally speaking, it's a great platform for them.
Pat?
I totally agree with Manny. Just to touch on a few other things, I think that you're just giving the kids a chance, especially Canadian guys. They're all so eager to showcase their talents. But once again, for me, just kind of rolling back down memory lane when it was my first tournament and we were traveling and it was the AAU circuit, that was some overwhelming times. It wasn't easy, and it's a little bit kind of like getting dumped into a bucket of ice cold water. It can be a serious challenge for a lot of players. It can be a culture shock. So I think that once again you're giving them the opportunity. Necessarily is the opportunity that they need or that they want. That's for them to decide once they get that experience. But I feel that they're getting the chance to play against top talent, like Brandon had mentioned. Americans are so dominant at the game of basketball. So for us to get a chance to just go down there and once again the kids to even just visit different states. And different parts of America, I think it's just it's an amazing opportunity. It's something that you'll never forget. It's a life-changing experience, and it's bonding that now looking back on it, it's stuff that I miss every day. Waking up, going to the gym, watching games with the guys, from going all the way to just team runs, going to McDonald's. To staying up late. Nowadays it's Fortnite for the guys. Back then for us it was literally just 2K. But it's cool to see the opportunities. Especially it's expanding so much moving forward. But it's great to see what AAU has really done, especially from a Canadian standpoint. And that's what once again it's either A, exposing us or B, for the better, or B, exposing us for the worse. Where you're just getting to see guys that either can or can't play, and that becomes a challenge for them to go back in the gym and want to get better for the next season, the next time around, or B, exposing us to the point where we can play. We got guys, we got some dudes here that should be noticed and should be put on the board. So I think it's just a great experience, a great time, a great opportunity for these guys to get.
Have any of you guys been paying attention to the senior men's Canada team in terms of the coaching situation they're in right now? Who do you think Canada should hire if you were the head of Canada basketball? Who are you hiring as the next head coach?
Roy Rand.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree too, and I'm sitting here thinking man, sometimes the best option is sitting right under your. I loved what Jay Triano did, and that's my guy, and I think he did an amazing job, and he's no longer the pitcher. It's just end this search and give it to Roy Rana and let him prove what he can do.
No more beating around the bush, just get it done.
Most of these new generation ballers right now all grew up playing for Roy.
Yeah.
It's something where I think he'd be able to walk in, spend and dedicate a ton of time on getting it done. I mean, I saw him yesterday at Hoop Summit practice. He does a great job with his guys. I think the NBA guys would love him, and I think they should just end this thing right now and just give Roy Rana the job if you're asking me.
I definitely agree with you, T. And the reason why I say that is just, through my first year of coaching and through studying the game, half the battle is the buy-in factor. To get players to buy into what you're saying. And that's what Roy Ryan does a great job of. Everywhere he's been, he's always got his players to buy in. And so I think, like you said, I don't think it's that complicated. I think he did a great job with the senior men's national team.
Well, hopefully someone's watching this and takes our opinion seriously, but I'm all in for Roy Rana and getting that job. With that being said, leading into here, what's your predictions on Friday night Hoop Summit? World Team or Team USA?
Got to go with the world.
I'm going world team.
Yeah. I mean that like it's not like a
Might be a little biased.
Yeah, it's not like gonna be like an easy pick because that U.S. team is loaded with talent. A lot of those guys like you see on social media through highlight tapes and stuff like that. But also like with the world team, like they've got some kids that have made a lot of noise at Basketball Without Borders and their prep schools. So it's gonna. I think I was saying it this morning. Like I think it's gonna be like a single digit type lead, and I can see it coming down to the wire. Mm-hmm. But I think the world's gonna come out on top.
I think a couple guys. Jeremy, you're going with world team too?
You know that I'm not. I think our team is our USA team is loaded. Like Josh Green and Nico Mannion and our very own Matthew Alexander Moncrief, like they're very, very good. And I've liked what I've seen from their team, but them American kids, man, they're different. Like they're a different kind of different. Like, and I think it's gonna show.
You know what I like is that I think this world team has a lot of U.S. experience in it, and I think that's what makes this a little bit different right now. Watching the practice yesterday, Nico, the point guard, he did an awesome job yesterday, just finding guys and creating his own shot and knocking down open shots. He really impressed me yesterday. Precious, that's a man right there. And then you look at the other big for the world team.
Kofi.
Benny, we talked about him earlier.
Kofi Cockburn.
Kofi's just huge, and their post presence and Ma running the wing, and I think they got a little bit of everything, and they got that international flavor, but they also have that U.S. experience that I think is going to help them when they walk into that game where it's not the first time seeing these U.S. players. So I think it is going to be a close game. I got to go with my bias of the world team in this one by 3.
Go.
What's the spread, Tom? If we have one.
The spread? No spread. It's straight up 3.
It's a pick'em. Got it.
Absolutely. But hey, Mark, is there any questions? I know you had said that there was a question. Can you fire that to the group?
I got some to you from last week that we didn't get to.
All right, perfect.
How many? We got a few. How many want to get through?
I don't know. Let's try to blast them out really quick, and if you can, Jeremy, you just kind of pick who you want to answer each one there that you got, and then Mark, you throw some out too.
We had one from last week from Reason TDE. How has the pick and roll changed with the new increase of the amount of threes taken now?
I think like with that too, like just because like the traditional big man, to put it like, is slowly deteriorating away, where you're seeing a lot of 4s and even 5s, like hitting the 3 at a consistent rate. So a lot of time, even with the pick and roll, like as much as they used to pick and roll to the basket, it's more so pick and pop now. And then those guys are able to create for themselves, like the guards do and the wings do and stuff like that. So I think just like the evolution of the stretch big being able to score from the outside, like I think that's the biggest change in my opinion.
I think it's different. Like when you think of I think when you, like growing up, when you thought of pick and roll, you thought of John Stockton and Karl Malone. Mm-hmm. And it's like it was always John Stockton like getting downhill, either for a layup or a drop off or a dunk or a 15-footer. And I think now it's more so kind of used to like just to get the dude off me to shoot this 3. Or it's a pick and pop, and it's like our bigs now. Like we have the USA World Team conversation. It's like, well, a lot of these USA kids they're trying to play like European bigs, as far as picking the pop in and being out there handle the ball, and like it's different now. You see guards setting screens for bigs, like it's just different. So I think with the amount of threes taken, like we've changed the game to get more threes off. And I think the pick and roll is for sure taking.
I think yesterday, yesterday Roy was doing a lot of good stuff. It's funny that you asked that question because in that Hoop Summit practice, he really did a good job interchanging using the high screen and roll with the other guy, the four-man then flashing up and, interchanging out to the perimeter.
Yeah.
I think what it does is it allows for coaches now to be a lot more creative with the versatility that you have 1 through 5. And I saw that yesterday where it really is positionless and everyone can kind of do everything. Even though you have those traditional big bodies, they're a lot more skilled. And that was the biggest takeaway I saw yesterday in regards to the screen and roll and the screen and pop and things like that.
I think it takes away a little bit, too, from, like, that traditional big man position. Like Jeremy mentioned Karl Malone, like, he'd be getting that basketball on the doorstep a lot. And now, what Brandon mentioned, you're getting a lot of the times, and kind of touching on what you just said with Roy in the practice, you're getting a lot of the times now off of pick and roll, you have the big rolling, but then the opposite big lifting, opposite key line. So, I think a little bit what it does is it takes away from that traditional big, getting the ball on the roll, seeing him on the doorstep, letting him operate from there, to now you're having to see him catch and shoot or operate from the wing, and you're giving the bigs more of a chance to showcase what they can do, off the rip on just the catch and go. So I think it took away a little bit from that traditional big position, but it also added, and kind of like you said, the game is now positionless. You have bigs that can guard guards and guards that can guard bigs, and it's just the game is just so interchangeable now, so much different with pace and just the style of play. So I think that would be my intake on the whole screen and roll in today's game.
Big one.
All right, perfect. Next question.
All right, this one's from It's Nash XO. She said, NBA super teams, is it making the game boring to watch or no? And I think I'll start that one off. I feel like it kind of, in some aspects, it is because like you look at Golden State Warriors, they're their own all-star team. Like it's pretty obvious. Like they have 5 all-stars, and like you put them up against a team like not trying to like downplay anybody, but like if you put them up against Chicago, like you're pretty much saying like Golden State's gonna win, and it doesn't make it
more or less every position.
Yeah, it's literally like pick your poison like from 1 through 5, and like it I want to say as much as like making it boring, but the excitement of like having to come down to the wire kind of game, like the chances of that happening isn't as consistent as it was like back in the day where like a lot of the stars were like spread out throughout each team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to jump in here and say, when the NBA season kicks off and you sit there and you look at the teams, you could really sit down and kind of pinpoint probably the 10 teams that are going to compete, and there's only 10 teams competing when you really look at it. I don't care about 1 through 8 in each of the divisions. Is the teams that are competing to win. You start to look at all the rest of the teams. The other 20 teams kind of resort to the fact that they're going to play the draft and hopefully grab a free agent in the future. I think there needs to be something done to allow a little bit of parity or a little bit more parity. So, in regards to the question, I think NBA super teams do make it boring where, you just gang up to try to win a championship versus trying to create a legacy and build programs. I just find that it creates non-loyalty. When I was growing up and you turn on the TV and, you saw Larry Bird, I really believe Larry Bird was from Boston. I believe that Magic Johnson was from L.A. I believe Michael Jordan was from Chicago. Like, they were the jersey they wore, and now it's become such a business. And it was back then, but the money is just so astronomical right now that, you can't believe that a player is truly representing that city and that brand they're coming from until they show and prove. So that's kind of my point on it.
I think real quick, sorry guys if anyone wanted to touch more on that. I think one team actually, we're talking about super teams, but I think one thing that I think that's been great from this year is you're seeing, once again, I think you always kind of see that 5 through 8 kind of switch each year. I think for, maybe not last year, but maybe 4 years or so leading up to last year and this year, it was kind of very consistent with the groups that you saw in the back half. But now you got, I'm just going to go off Eastern Conference alone, but to see what Orlando Magic and the Brooklyn Nets have done and just that little bit of a drought that they've been on, and, touching on what you said, Tony, just with Larry Bird and thinking he's from Boston, and then, Michael Jordan feeling like he's from Chicago. Like right now, the way D. Loading is playing, he's playing like he's a Brooklyn native. He's on the cover of Slam. They're calling him the King of Brooklyn. Got him all, draped up, looking like Biggie. And even the jerseys. So I think what they have going on right now, and talking and touching a little bit more on culture, they have a good little chance maybe to make a run or make some noise in the first round of the playoffs. And you just, once again, I think March Madness, NBA playoffs, you just really don't know what happens on any given night. Anyone can come and show up and play. And I think with a team like Brooklyn, they got nothing to lose. So they're going to go out there and hoop, and he's going to continue to keep doing what he's doing. He's probably, an argument right now for most improved player of the year. So I think it's amazing to see what some of those teams that were struggling the past, 3 or so years are now kind of coming into the spotlight again and getting getting that feel, getting the attention, and giving just a new look, a new face to the league.
Absolutely. Jeremy, just as FYI, because I know we always keep track, I'm sitting here getting updates, and I just saw that Rick Barnes hired Kim English as his assistant, so that's an interesting one there. So
shout out Kim. That's my man. Shout out Kim. That's my guy.
Absolutely. Now, any other questions there?
Which one you want to dive into?
Please.
Mike, you got one?
There's one from Instagram last week. Mateo.Zagar. What is the importance of a prep school for high schoolers thinking D1?
I think it's I don't think you have to have it. I think it's valuable in the sense that it prepares you to be able to live a Division I lifestyle if you are in fact a Division I kid. Now, I'm not saying that prep schools are magic tricks. Like, you don't walk in the door and walk out Division I basketball player. Like, I think that has a lot to do with your own accountability and responsibility for your own game. Yes, we do have the resources to be able to help you and propel you to do that, and the network, and even given the network, everybody doesn't have the same network. But I think it better prepares you if you actually want to go Division I, actually be good at Division I, not just get to Division I. I think it's good in that sense. If you're looking grand scheme, I think that's what it helps you prepare for. Especially here, like we have a staff that has the network that's been there, that's done it, and I think in our case, I mean, I'm kind of self-promoting us right now, but that's just what it is. Like we're one of the best that's out here, so it's like the value in it is that it helps you be able to get there and actually do well, and not just get there.
I think it allows you to find out whether you like basketball, love basketball. I think it allows you to determine whether this is really the path that you're choosing, and you take advantage. When I look at the prep school environment and something that we all talk about as coaches, I see you guys all nodding your heads. You really find out which kids are really about it, or which kids say they're about it and only want to do half the workouts, or not show up early in the morning, or not put in the work that it takes to be a Division I athlete. Forget the NBA, forget everything else. You got to put in work every single day, and you have the resources sitting around the table. You have the gym, you have the facility, you have the workouts. This is where if you take advantage of all of those things that are structured for your success, you can only get better. Not everyone's a Division I player, I agree, Jeremy, but everyone has the opportunity, ability to chase a dream and try to get better to the best of their ability given the resources they're given. And I think that's where prep schools are such a huge advantage, is the accessibility, the reliability, and the ability to have sound instruction, development, and programming around you. I think that's what the biggest difference is in whether or not you're going to be successful or not.
I think, T, just to touch on that, one of the words that you last touched on was reliability. You know, I think above all else in helping these guys get to Division I or youth sport or D2, junior college, whatever the case may be, is we're holding these kids accountable. We're making sure that they're holding themselves to be reliable enough to get things done in their given day, not just basketball. You know, like their schoolwork, making their bed, cleaning up after themselves, whether it's, you know, in the kitchen or in the basement at our prep school, being respectful to others and their surroundings and where they live. You know, for the three of the guys that I'm around, you know, we all live with them, so you know we take on that role as not just a coach, but almost, you know, more or less. And you can tell me if I'm wrong. We are almost become parents. And I think that we've also matured a lot as well as coaches and people, which is the biggest thing, and I think take away from just this prep school, not just here but anyone. I think that, you know, this is something that I'm extremely jealous and envious of these guys, because I wish I had an opportunity like this. And you know, a huge shout out to UT and the Bounce program and what it did for me. You know, you guys laid out an amazing foundation for me and helped build the character I'd say that I am today. And I think a lot of that is a testament to the program that you play for, you know, whether it's high school or it's outside of it. But I think the most important thing is the reliability factor. Is we're helping these guys become more mature young men and kind of set the tone for what's next, even if it's not a Division I level or basketball at all. We're helping them become young adults and make decisions on their own before, you know, all of a sudden you fall flat on your face and you're looking towards those, you know, coaching figures or teachers or whoever it was, and all of a sudden, you know, kind of throwing shade or blame on them for not, you know, giving you that chance or that opportunity. And I think that for the four of us, we provided the kids, especially this year, more than they could have ever have imagined. And I think it's up to them to, you know, like we've said, take the next step in actually putting in the work, or taking that step after they're done with this chance and this opportunity and realizing, man, I should have listened to what Coach was saying, and I totally get what he meant there. But I think the reliability factor is huge on, you know, just what you can take away from being in a program like you know, ours or any other prep program in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, was there any more questions?
That's all I got.
All right. So what I think we do next week, obviously next Whiteboard Wednesday, next Wednesday, what I'd like to do is probably pull MA and fresh off the Hoop Summit and kind of pick his brain on some of the learnings that he learned being around, you know, the international players, the international flavor, and then also either get at him for our 3-point win or get at him for our bigger loss. We'll see how that goes. But I want to keep you know, stressing the fact that you guys are doing a great job. I think the sky's the limit for you guys. Stay focused. And we just got to keep pushing through for all the kids that actually want to push hard. And shout out to those guys. And, you know, shout out Howie from Syracuse is logged in, Tyler logged in. Shout out to all the guys that are watching online that pop in here. And you know, I'm even going to give a shout out, although I'm a little disappointed at some of the kids that are supposed to be in class right now that logged in.
What time
is it? I'll be talking to you after. But
it might be lunch.
12:30.
12:30. They got lunch at 11:40, so they caught it on time.
It might be lunch. We might have the right time here. But I just wanted to thank you guys and let's stay focused and let's keep this thing rolling. There's only bigger and better things for all of you in the works, and I can't wait to see your guys' success and be a part of it. So,
absolutely.
Mark, thank you for everything as well, and let's keep this thing rolling.
Absolutely, let's do it. Thanks,
the
T.
word to Tyree Samuel. Thanks, Guru.
All right, boys.
All right.